The recruiting insider rolling on because recruiting never stops. And he's back, your recruiting insider, Jason Sukamel of orangebloods.com. Took a little time off for the off week. Maybe some of you did the same. Welcome back to Jason. Welcome back to you guys. And it's brought to you by Longhorn Wealth Management Group. We'll tell you more about John and his crew and his prediction for Texas and Florida coming up here in a few minutes. Jason, let's jump in because we got a good update for people. Texas fans always looking for a flip, and they've gotten half of one here. Dre Quinn is the name, and he was committed to Clemson, but as of last week, he is not. Let's get the update on who we're talking about here for maybe the Texas fans that had let the name drift a little bit.
Yeah, it's a cool name, man, Dre Quinn. So I don't know how you could have forgotten that. But, Dre's a guy that was on our radar for, not quite a year, but he did visit Texas back in the spring and for an unofficial visit. And we talked to him after that visit. And, he loved everything about Texas. And he came out of that visit, his first visit, saying, like, hey, man, Texas is a major player for me. And Chad, at that time, I was like, hey, man, I think people are sleeping on Texas's chances with Dre Quinn, okay? Well, then he goes in the summer and takes all of his official visits. Let me back up. Dre Quinn, I should lay the foundation, is an edge defender. He's out of Buford, Georgia. This is his first year at Buford, Georgia. He was in the Atlanta area at a small school. Now he's at Buford, Georgia, an edge defender that Texas had been recruiting. But he took his official visits in the summer, including a stop in Austin at Texas. Talked to him leaving that Texas visit. And he was supposed to visit Notre Dame that next weekend. He told me, he said, yeah, I'm going to cancel that Notre Dame visit. And I'm like, oh, okay. That sounds to me like a guy who's going to commit to Texas, right? Mm-hmm. So, and he pretty much said, yeah, it's Texas and Clemson. Those are the only two schools he was really considered. Well, I thought at the time, I was like, okay, that looks really good for Texas. I went home that afternoon. This is Sunday afternoon, and typed up an update on his visit. Then I typed up a separate story, a commitment story in case he committed a day or two later or later that night. Sometimes even happens. Well, then a couple days later, we start hearing more Clemson buzz. And I'm like, oh, man, did I actually write that story up for no reason? Waste my time. Well, sure enough, he ends up committing to Clemson over Texas and had been committed there for, 5 months roughly? 4 months? No, 3 months. Let me get my math right. And just late last week, there had been some rumblings that he was probably going to open things up. He had visited Tennessee already in this fall. Well, he ends up officially decommitting from Clemson. So he's back on the market. Texas is involved here again. Schools like Tennessee, Georgia Tech, Ohio State's trying to get him on campus. So, he's uncommitted officially. I like Texas's chances in this one. I don't think it's a slam dunk. And Dre Quinn has fooled me once before, if you will. So, I'm a little bit skeptical, and I'm trying to get in touch with Dre to kind of pick his brain a little bit. I've been working on that since I've been back in town, and I'll continue to work on that. But, Texas was a clear number 2 when he committed to Clemson, and it was a close race. So, that just kind of looking at that, I'm like, okay, you loved Texas before. Nothing's changed. So I think Texas is in a pretty good spot here. We're keeping an eye on Dre Quinn now that he's back on the market.
Definitely seems like the kid's interested in some kind of orange, and now it's just trying to dial it in. So, Jason, a couple of clarifying questions here. Can I assume he's taken an official visit to Clemson already?
He has. He's taken – I don't have his stuff, but, yeah, he's taken – and I think Clemson is pretty much out of it. Yeah, he took a Georgia Tech. It looks like a Clemson, and then the Texas official visit, of course. So, I get the impression that Clemson's no longer even in the mix. Now, could he try to take a Tennessee official visit if he hasn't done that already? That's still possible. I do think he'll come back to Austin for an unofficial visit based on things I've been told. But yeah, Tennessee still has the option. They're the one school that still has the option for an official visit, and possibly Ohio State.
So he has had an official to Texas as well.
Yeah, that was it was June. It was late June or mid-June, and he was supposed to take the Notre Dame one after that. So it was mid-June. But yes, he did take an official visit to Texas, and we can talk about that. But he loved the visit, and we can dig into that here in a little bit. But yes, that visit is already in the books.
And not that it really matters, but any any inside info on whether or not Clemson's season just has a lot to do with this? Could it just be as simple as he's watching the Tigers look like that and he's thinking, let me just take a step back?
I don't remember where I read it, but he said that's not the reason. And I would credit the source if I could remember where I read it. I don't remember who talked to him. Might have been Chad Simmons at Rivals. I don't remember exactly though, but he said that's not the reason. And he did have a wandering eye a little bit before he actually decommitted. So it's not like this happened overnight, but I think it'd be naive if we didn't factor in that Clemson struggles had something to do with it.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. All right, you named some other schools, and it included Georgia Tech, but I didn't hear you say Georgia. Are the Bulldogs not interested?
No, he took an official visit to Georgia. So I think Georgia could be a factor, but right now, and I'd have to look at their recruiting numbers. I don't think they're a major player in this one right now, but again, that could change. He may commit this week. He may take his time and take multiple visits, which is what I'm leaning towards. So again, this thing still has some moving parts that I think, may not be resolved for a little while, but hey, recruiting is pretty unpredictable. I mean, he may wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, my heart has been at Texas. It's still at Texas. Let's go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and make a decision. But I think he'll take some time and take some more visits.
And again, we're talking about Dre Quinn, edge player out of Georgia in the 26 class that is decommitted from Clemson, and now everything is open, and Texas is definitely a big part of it. So, Jason, let's dig in on what type of kid we're talking about here. I saw him listed as a 4-star. How would you kind of rank him to let a Texas fan know just what this would be? If they get this, it'd be one of those long flips if it goes from Clemson to uncommitted to then to Texas. If Texas gets him, what kind of edge player are we talking about here?
It's interesting, Chad. Like, if you look at the Rivals industry rankings, again, they take into account Rivals, 24/7, ESPN. He's listed as a 4-star, but only ESPN has him listed as a 4-star in their rankings. Rivals and 24/7 have him as a 3-star. For comparison, he's ranked in the state of Georgia, 38th, 36th, 45th. Nationally, he is the number 359th ranked national player in the country. So we're not talking like a top 50 player in the country, a no-brainer, automatic hit type player, if there's such a thing. But then you look at his offer list. I'm like, okay, Texas, Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, Tennessee, Notre Dame, USC, Texas A&M, Ohio State, LSU, Michigan, Miami, Florida State. It goes on and on and on. So I'm like, what am I missing that the rankings don't match up with the offer sheet? And honestly, I usually pay more attention to the offer sheet, assuming it's legitimate. And in the case of Dre Quinn, it is. I pay more attention to the offer sheet sometimes than the rankings. But he's a long, rangy edge defender, probably going to need a little bit of time. Maybe that's part of the reason people have him a little lower ranked. He's listed at 6'3.5", 225. I mean, I've eyeballed him. I've sat there and talked to him. He's going to need to put on some weight and probably need a year or two in a college weight room and development and nutrition room. But he's an explosive player off the edge. He's a smart player. He's a smart kid, period. But he's a smart player. Uses his hands well. So he's not, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, if Texas gets him, go out and celebrate in the streets, because he's not a 5-star type player. But he's a player that's coveted by the best of the best programs in college football. So it'd be a major win for whoever gets him.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So the ranking doesn't speak to necessarily big-time status, but you just said Texas, Georgia, Ohio State are all on the offer list. You say Bama as well?
Yeah, Bama, Notre Dame. I mean,
Bama's
LSU, A&M.
Plus, right, you mentioned Tennessee, A&M, Notre Dame. Like, that is okay. Yeah, it's an interesting one to file away.
Honestly, now that we're talking about this, as soon as we're done with this video, I'm going to go on to Huddle and rewatch his film and see if I can maybe find some senior film. I'm like, what am I missing that either these coaches or the ranking service there's such a discrepancy. So I'm going to seriously go back and look at his film and be like, okay, one of you sides is crazy, and I want to figure out which one it is.
Yeah, these aren't the kind of programs that throw charity offers out. Just exactly. So Dre Quinn, a guy to keep an eye on. So, Jason, before we leave the discussion, you mentioned that he did have an official visit to Texas. Anything you can tell fans off of that? Seems like I mean, again, you were at a point you said earlier where you were, writing the commitment story level. So he's obviously a guy that has shown an interest with Texas. So for you, if it's Texas now, are they clearly out in front for you? Or is this, a battle with a couple other schools?
Yeah, it's funny. I said I wrote that commitment story back it was literally the day he took his official visit. So mid-June, I said, I'm going to have to freshen that thing off and dust it off, and maybe I'll actually get to use it, several months later. But in talking to him after that visit, I mean, I'm just looking at the quotes. He said, I loved everything about this visit. Texas talked about his upside and his potential. Okay, things we just mentioned. He might need a couple years, but they said the sky is the limit for him. He said he's enjoyed every aspect of it. And this is the part that I thought was key. He said he had a bond with the players. And he said, it felt like I've known the players for a long time, like I'm already on the team with the way they treat me. And that's when I heard that quote, my ears perked up. And that's when I was like, this guy sounds like a guy who maybe kind of gave indication that he was going to commit. And now he winds up committing to Clemson. Of course, he talked about his relationship with the coaches, Lee Allen Clark. We've talked about. I just said, I love how honest he is with me. He tells me what to expect when I come in. Ding, ding, ding. He tells me what to expect when I come in. I'm thinking, when, not if, right? So, so it was a great visit. I mean, everything he said. I mean, Justice Terry hosted him. Zena Umozola hosted him. Really connected with those guys, connected with the team. So I think if you're Texas, what you need to do here is get him back on campus for a game. And I think that's going to happen, right? Now, Texas isn't at home for about a month, but it just kind of reaffirmed to him, like, hey, dude, remember how you fell in love with us earlier? Let's just show you nothing's changed. Maybe things are even better. Like, get him back on campus, reaffirm that. And I think Texas has a great shot here. But the fact that he's visited Tennessee this fall, and he was at Mississippi State last week to watch them play Tennessee in that overtime thriller. I'm not counting this as a slam dunk, Chad, and I'm still kicking the tires on it. Again, I got back in town Sunday afternoon, so it's amazing, dude. This is a sidebar, but when I didn't take a full week off. I was gone for like 5 days. It's amazing how, like, anytime I do that, I'm like, holy crap, I feel like I missed like a month. I gotta come back and make a million calls and get caught up on this story and that story and this story. So I'm still kicking the tires on Dre. The tea leaves that I read as I read them look really good for Texas, but I don't think it's 100% set in stone the way maybe some people are perceiving it to be. I think Tennessee's a factor there, and maybe Georgia Tech, maybe Ohio State if they can get them on campus. But I'm not shutting the door on Tennessee in this one either.
Interesting. At the very least, we can say Dre Quinn is a guy who digs the orange part of the color wheel. He's already said goodbye, Texas fans, to one bright orange. Maybe he's not going to like that other bright orange either, and he's going to focus in on the burnt variety of orange. We'll see. Dre Quinn, a name to keep in mind, decommits from Clemson last week. This is the Recruiting Insider. We got some recruiting Q&A coming up, but right now, let's tell you about Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John and his crew doing great work, and this week, John wants to start by welcoming Jason back from vacation. How about that? He hopes Jason and all of you enjoyed a stress-free game watching experience this past weekend. Longhorns were idle, but they did climb the rankings a bit. John is looking forward to, check it out, being at the Swamp. He's going to Gainesville, and he's predicting a 27-13 Texas victory. In anticipation of that celebration, he wants to offer all OB Live fans the opportunity to schedule that free 90-minute private consultation with John. Learn how working with a certified financial planner can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy. 972-707-4900 or go to longhornwealth.net. We appreciate John and the support of Longhorn Wealth Management Group, and we appreciate him welcoming Jason back.
Yeah, I did not know that was coming, so thank you, John. That put a smile on my face. And, John's prediction, and I'll make my official prediction later in the week, but I think he's pretty on par there, on point there. That's probably just kind of eyeballing, and again, I'll break down the matchups, and that kind of can impact my final numbers, but that's about where I would have it too. I don't see either team lighting up the scoreboard, but I certainly don't see Florida. And I think if Texas wins 27-13, that's a pretty good win. I mean, they're only 6.5-point favorites. I'd love to see Texas go out and dominate this game. And I'm like, okay, this Texas team is back. It's where we thought it was going to be. But a 14-point win on the road in the SEC is a pretty good win.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I agree with you, Jason. That would be something, obviously, Sark would sign up for any win right now. A 14-point win would be included. Here's something else to remember, Jason, before we get to Q&A. This week, John and I were emailing back and forth, and he mentioned the seats that they got at the game. That originally they were going to go in one spot. They decided they ended up in like an overhang situation, so they are dry. If people haven't seen the weather forecast, when you get to this time of year, October and November in the SEC, it doesn't snow, it doesn't ice over, but when it rains, it can really rain and affect the game. Did you watch Florida and Miami? It rained the whole game. So it's a game. I'm seeing 89% chance of precipitation in kind of the afternoon. So this could turn into a sloppy game at the Swamp, ball security and all that stuff. If you give me 27-13 Texas in that scenario, I mean, you take that and don't even blink.
If you get that and you take 14 and 13 and just get the hell out of Dodge with a win, right?
It could turn into one of those things. So for people just kind of understand, SEC provides some weird stuff. It's not just environment itself. Sometimes you add things like that. I've been to a game at Georgia where it rained for half the game and can affect things. But in Gainesville, who knows? And also, Jason, if it starts to rain, what if there is a little pop of lightning a mile away? What happens then? Well, then you get an hour break that you have to deal with. So there's a lot of stuff that could pop up in games like this when you go on the road. So just something to keep in mind this week for Texas and Florida. Could get sloppy at the Swamp. All right. So, John, thank you and Longhorn Wealth Management Group for the support. We're going to jump into a little Q&A here. Remember, we tell you all the time at orangebloods.com. That's where you can find Jason's 3-2-1 article every week. We like to pull some information from it, but we can't hit it all. Get to orangebloods.com. Get signed up. It's a perfect time to do it right as SEC play is about to begin with Arch Manning at quarterback. All the excitement is coming. Get signed up with orangebloods.com. Folks send Jason questions all the time, and we're going to hit 3 of them this week. Jason, let's start here. If we look at percentages, what effort is put into high school recruiting versus portal recruiting? When Ketch was in last week, he spent some time talking about the portal side of recruiting. Obviously, we focus in on the high school side, sometimes a little more on the insider. But if I'm a fan, I would love this question. So how do you break this down?
Yeah, it was an interesting question. Wasn't necessarily expecting something like that, but it's a really good, interesting question. But, if we're talking about what effort is put into high school recruiting versus portal. Now, I'm of the belief there's 2 things I believe pretty strongly. The foundation of a championship program has to be built from the high school ranks. Okay. That's where you have to recruit at a high level. You can't compete if you don't. You can't compete for championships if you don't compete at a high level at the high school level. But I also kind of think you probably can't win a championship without at least a couple key portal additions. So they're both very important. But in terms of what percentage of effort, you got to remember high school recruiting, these coaches are recruiting players for 2-3 years, sometimes even longer. They're getting them on campus for 5, 6, 10 visits. Obviously there's an official visit. You're communicating with them almost daily. Most coaches communicate multiple times a week. Sometimes it's almost every day with your top prospects. Be it it might be a DM, it might be a phone call, it might be a text message. So high school recruiting is really stretched out over multiple years, and there's a lot of work that goes involved there. You're recruiting parents, you're recruiting, kind of agents, if you will. Sometimes, portal recruiting, Chad, especially now, we're down to 1 portal window. I don't even know, what is it like? Is it even a week anymore?
They're talking about 10 days in January.
Okay, so about a little more than a week in January. It's all mostly within that window. Okay, I mean, there may be some talk outside the window behind the scenes, but it's not like you're recruiting these portal players for a year or a year and a half or 2 or 3 years. You bring them in for 1 visit, sometimes no visits at all, and that's how you win a portal recruitment. It's all done at light speed. So I actually said, dude, it's probably 90%. If we're talking effort, 90% effort goes into high school recruiting versus 10 for portal. That's not to say that importance is 90 to 10. I don't view it that way. That it's 90 to 10 in terms of importance. But portal is such a narrow window of when it starts and when it wraps up. And it's basically one visit, and you talk to maybe an agent or two, and then some guys make their decisions before they even take a visit. And then you just bring them in just as a foregone conclusion. Some guys come and sign and then show up without even taking a visit. So, yeah, I think there's much more effort in high school recruiting than there is portal recruiting. Doesn't mean that it's, like I said, it's 90 to 10 in terms of importance, but in terms of effort, definitely a lot more effort for high school recruiting.
Yeah, in some ways, I think the analogy might be the long-term relationship versus the speed dating, because it does get real quick there with the portal. And of course, also remember there's part of the portal you can never predict, because you do get 30 days if a coach changes. For instance, Arkansas right now, like we're literally living in one. There's a 30-day window that you can get in if you want. If you're an Arkansas player, you could jump in the portal the next 30 days and move. You can't play this.
Crazy though. We haven't seen that because they still have the January portal, so those guys will wait till January, right?
Wait, right? But if you wanted to, right? If you wanted to, you'd have 30 days right now. And there's another one, right? UCLA fired Foster. There was a 30-day window right after that if you needed it. But that is an interesting distinction between the two, high school and portal. More and more games I watch now, Jason, where sometimes it's half, if not all, of an offensive line. Yeah, they're all transfer guys. It's like, wow, it's crazy. All right, second question is, here we go. What are the chances that Texas flips each of the two legacies? Oh, Jason, the Longhorn fans are hanging on to these two names.
Yeah, these deservedly so, but we get questions on them pretty much every week. Caden Finley and Jalen Lott. I would say things have been really quiet with Caden Finley, which can go both ways. But to me, this feels like he's pretty well locked in with Notre Dame. I know there were some thoughts around people in Austin that if Texas made an aggressive NIL offer, which they didn't really do initially, if we're being honest. Notre Dame had a more attractive NIL offer. And I'm not saying that's why he picked Notre Dame, Caden Finley. He really liked Notre Dame, but it doesn't help when the school you like has a better NIL package maybe than the other, right? So I think Texas would have to really be aggressive there in NIL. I haven't heard that that's happening yet. So I think he's pretty well locked into Notre Dame. Jalen Lott gets a little more interesting. He did visit Texas for the Sam Houston game, okay? And naturally, Texas fans are like, oh, yes, everybody gets excited. Jalen Lott's in town. Well, that's true, and it's not a bad thing. It's never a bad thing, especially if Texas goes out and looks good and beats up on Sam Houston. But what I have been told, in just kind of grapevine talk, if you will, but sources I trust, it was kind of a visit almost out of convenience as much as it was Jalen Lott being like, I want to go watch Texas play. I want to go take a recruiting visit to Texas. Remember, both of his parents are Texas X's, are both athletes. There's always alumni functions going on down in Austin for Texas X's and former Texas athletes. So I think the pieces just kind of fit there. Texas isn't going away there. They're going to keep working on Jalen Lott. We have been hearing I have for 2 months that, hey, the door's not completely shut there. Jalen's at least keeping a bit of an open mind. All that being said, Chad, I have heard nothing that makes me think he's like about to flip or about to decommit from Oregon. I think he's very happy with his Oregon commitment. I think the chances are pretty low there, maybe 25%. But I think the chances are probably better with Jalen Lott right now than they are Caden Finley, mostly because Jalen Lott was just in Austin a little more than a week ago.
Interesting. We'll certainly keep our eyes peeled for those two guys. Got one more question to get to after I tell you about Longhorn Wealth Management one more time. Let's talk about game watching parties. John is up there. And of course, we told you he's going to be at the game. But if you're in John's neck of the woods, that's the Dallas area. He was a part of the Texas X's chapter, a board member for 15 years in the Dallas chapter. Now he's been a part of building out the Collin County area. So if you're in that part of Dallas, every game, they've been watching it at Dirty Birds in Plano. Easy to remember. Go see them at Dirty Birds in Plano. You can email John or call him for all the details. And again, OB Live fans, John also wants you to know October, National Financial Planning Month. If you want to initiate a financial planning process or simply review an existing financial plan for your future, John's offering, once again, that free 90-minute private consultation. Have a certified financial planner analyze your financial picture, help you gauge how strong your current and future financial outlook appears. 972-707-4900 or go to longhornwealth.net. So again, if you are in that part of Texas and you want to go to Dirty Birds in Plano, feel free. If you are in our part of Texas, the greater Austin area, and you want to come check out a big old screen and a watch party, how about this one at TCH Social Austin, 183 in Anderson Mill. We're going to throw Texas and Florida right in the middle there on the big one. We'll have Vanderbilt and Alabama on one of those other screens. We'll be peeking in on other teams. So come see us at 183 and Anderson Mill. Also, make sure you check out the post-game show on the YouTube channel. Shout out to Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm for sponsoring it. Get in there at the 2-minute warning. If you don't know how this works, you want us to start at the 2-minute warning, because that usually means Texas is controlling things and Jeff Ketchum says, guys, let's go. That's what you want. If it's a close game and we got to go till the very end, that's usually one where Ketch says, all right, we got to watch the game, then we'll start the post game. So keep your eyes peeled, keep your fingers crossed for a 2-minute warning. That's what you want in these games. So that's always good news, Jason, for Texas fans. And if John's score comes true and it's 27-13 at the 2-minute warning, maybe Texas has the ball, right? And they're just running the clock out.
Yeah.
Could be when we start at the 2-minute warning.
I love those games. I've got my story all written and literally posted on the message board. I don't hit post until the game goes to 0-0, but I've got to load it up and then I just hit post story and boom, I'm good. Let's go post game.
It's fantastic. Yeah, so we'll hope for that this week. And shout out to John. Thanks to the Longhorn Wealth Management Group for being our sponsor every week on the Recruiting Insider. One more Q&A here, and it's the defensive side of the ball, Jason. Who are the best defensive high school in-state prospects that you expect to commit in the 27 class? So looking ahead to the next group.
Yeah, I hate to say that I expect them to commit, but this was an interesting question because I started looking at it and I was like, you know what? There really aren't a lot of in-state defensive guys. There are more offensive guys that I feel pretty good about Texas's chances with right now than there are defensive guys. So I had to kind of go through the list and I was like, well, I mean, you know, a guy like Eli Johnson out of Cibolo Steel, he's a safety. I said, okay, that guy makes some sense. I mean, he's A&M's involved on him. I mean, a bunch of other schools, Ohio State, but he really likes Texas. He visited for that Sam Houston game. So I don't know that I would expect him to commit, but Eli Johnson's a guy. The one that really jumped out to me, these borderline 5-star type talent, is from some town called Waxahachie. I don't know
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we got the helmets right up here for you, Jaquan.
There you go. So, yeah. But Jaquan Snell, who's another safety, ironically, elite safety, big, tall, rangy playmaker. He's been to Texas a bunch. I think he'll stick around this area, you know, Texas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, one of those types of players. I think Texas is in a good spot for Jaquan Snell. You know, and there weren't a ton after that. I was like, I feel really good about. Now, that doesn't mean that Texas won't land a bunch of in-state guys. But right now, there just aren't a bunch of guys that I would say, oh, that's a Texas lean. Now, they'll probably go out of state. We've seen them do it, you know, obviously in this cycle and previous cycle. So it might be another year where they go out of state pretty heavily for defensive players and offensive players for that matter. But, you know, Talon Mayo is a tall, rangy cornerback out of Louisville. Texas has brought him in. I'm not sure exactly how hard Texas will push there. I've heard if Texas pushes, they're in a pretty good spot there. They like him, but you know, there's still some evaluations to be done there. So it was an interesting question, and I don't remember who exactly posed it, but when I started kind of looking at it, I was like, you know what, they're not as many defensive guys as I thought that I would say, okay, that guy's a Texas lean. Offense, I could probably pick, you know, 3, 4, 5 guys and say, okay, I feel pretty good about Texas here, here, and here. But defensively, not a ton. But those are a few names that stood out, including Jaquan Snell out of Waxahachie.
Yeah, Jason is funny. And when Waxahachie upset Duncanville, there was a play that got out where Jaquan had a hit that was so big. He not only took the Duncanville guy out, he took a teammate out on the same play. Like he was just delivering the wood no matter what it was. And one of the Waxahachie teammates kind of came up a little bit woozy and needed some help because Jaquan got him too.
Yeah, not surprising. Like I said, he's a big kid too. Like I don't know how, like he's like seriously like 6'3", 6'4". I've talked to him. He's an awesome kid too. So total package as a football player. He's smart. He's got the athleticism. He's got the size. He's a total package.
Well, a couple years ago, it was weird. The last time that game was in Waxahachie, it's the one I've talked about going to. And I saw, Colin Simmons, Alex January, DeCorian Moore, Caden Durham, Keelan Russell. They were all in the game. And those guys stand out. Even in a game like that, they stand out. And Snell's that type of guy where you'll just watch the film and you think, whoa, who's that? He's that type of presence on the field.
Yeah, I pulled him up about 6'3", right up around 200 pounds. I mean, seriously, he's got an NFL frame and just I mean, I don't know what is he's rated. He's not quite a 5-star, but he's top 50ish in the country, so he's in that discussion.
Yep, definitely everything you'd want there. Thanks everybody for those questions coming in for the Q&A. Jason again gets you the 3-2-1 each and every week, so go check it out this week. Once again, you're going to get the updated SEC rankings. Where does Jason have Texas and the Aggies and Ole Miss and LSU and everybody else ranked this week? Going into Texas's first game, weird anomaly. Texas has yet to play a conference game. They're the only team that can say that. And Ole Miss has played 3 of them. So it's just kind of a weird schedule right now. Ole Miss already 3-0 in conference. Texas is now getting into to conference play. Jason, before we wrap up, another thing that's in your 3-2-1 I thought was interesting was a little bit of re-ranking and rethinking that you did on quarterbacks. And you were taking a look at, correct me if I'm wrong here, these are quarterbacks that are, it's Arch, obviously, but it's quarterbacks in Arch's class, correct?
Yeah, somebody in the Q&A asked me to like re-rank the top 10 quarterbacks from that class. And I was like, that's an interesting question. So I took a look at it and like, it wasn't easy, Chad, because
the 23 class is what he's officially part of. Is that right? 23?
Yes.
Right.
Or 22. I'm sorry, 22.
22, my bad. Okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't easy because there's a lot of duds in that class. I mean, it just are. So, like the initial rankings, you had Arch Manning number 1, Dante Moore number 2 at Oregon.
Okay. I'm seeing him.
Nico, and I can never say his name, Amalayiva number 3. Right. Jackson Arnold number 4. Malachi Nelson, who we saw earlier this year, number 5. Then you get to guys like Jaden Rashada, Eli Holstein, Christopher Vezina, Avery Johnson, K-State, number 9, and Austin Novosad, number 10. So, like, honestly, like after the first 3 or 4, like it kind of doesn't matter, right? So it's tough. But like I said, you can make a case that Dante Moore should be number 1. He's the current Heisman favorite. But I said, if you're asking me who would I still want to build my program around, who do I think is going to be the best player over the next couple of years, I'm still going with Arch Manning. So I had Arch 1, Dante Moore, and then I went Eli Holstein.
See, I was going to ask about Holstein. He's doing enough at Pitt right now that, I mean, he's getting a little bit of attention, right? People are noticing him.
Yeah, I mean, his numbers are okay. But, I mean, It doesn't take a whole lot to get in the number 3 spot on that list, honestly. Right. And then I went Avery Johnson, who's been okay. I mean, he'll make some plays every now. And then I went Jackson Arnold, number 5. And, I mean, anybody who's watched me knows I think Jackson Arnold is not good. So, I mean, if I'm not good as number 5, what does the rest of it really even matter? I mean, so it was an interesting discussion, and like I think the more interesting part of that, who do you put number 1, Arch Manning or Dante Moore? And then how do the rest of those very mediocre to very poor players, how do they fall into place? So the bigger takeaway is like, what a bust of quarterbacks from that class it's been, from the top 10 guys in the country from that year.
Yeah, that's wild. Go take a look at that in the 3-2-1 and all the other great content at orangebloods.com. Get signed up this week as Texas gets ready to start SEC play. 2:30 kick in the swamp. Again, rain is scheduled to be a part of it. We'll check on that as the week goes on, but the forecast is calling for some rain. So it'll be interesting to see how the game rolls out. That really makes me wonder, Jason, if Trey Wisner is going to be able to go.
I thought the same thing earlier when you were talking about the rain. I'm like, okay, this is a game where you probably do need Wisner. And I got to correct myself. Arch, he committed in 22, signed in 23. So 23 class was that.
Okay,
group
so
was
it was the 23 class. Okay.
But yeah, I thought earlier when you were talking about the weather, I thought the same thing. I didn't say it, but I was like, man, this is a game where you could really use a fairly healthy dose of Trey Wisner potentially.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, Jason, anything else we need to hit this week?
Nope. We'll have Truths and Lies and Rumor Mill coming out. So those Rumor Mill should be out about the same time this Insider hits. So keep an eye out for those stories. And, of course, War Room on Thursday night.
There you go. Remember, we premiere each week, 10 a.m. on Wednesday. If you're watching us in that 10 o'clock hour on a Wednesday, we appreciate you. Or whenever you check us out, thank you for doing it. Thank you all for getting us up to 150,000 subscribers on YouTube. It did happen, and that means we're headed towards 200,000. I have been saying it. You cannot get to 8 million until you get to that next number. So I guess the next one is 151,000 subscribers. Thank you all for helping us do that. And again, we premiere every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Go check out all the other great content, not only at orangebloods.com, but on Orange Bloods Live, on Wire in the mornings with the old fashioned, the Football with Friends guys in the evenings. And of course, we've got the live shows for you at noon every day. And if you're seeing us on this Wednesday as we premiere, Jeff Ketchum will be back on the 12 o'clock show today. We'll jump into some OB Live and keep talking about Texas and Florida. Also, if you're watching us on Wednesday night is the first injury report. Remember, SEC games mean you get the injury report Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. I think it's 7 Central when it hits each evening. So you can go to the SEC website. They've got a separate little section with the injury report. You can check that out every week. So we'll obviously be talking about that as the week goes by as well. And remember, again, come see us at TCH Social Austin 183 and Anderson Mill for the watch party. Texas and Florida, 2:30 kick, Vandy and Bama at the same time. If you haven't been in a group of people rooting for Vanderbilt to beat Alabama, oh, come on out. I got to do that last year.
I'll be one of them. Yeah.
Oh, Jason, I got to do that last year in a restaurant, and that's a lot of fun right there. If Diego Pavia and Vandy can do it again, or even kind of do it again in T-Town, control the football like they did last year, hey, they're 4th in the country in third down conversions. 4th. Texas is like 102. Florida is 122. Vandy is 4. And that's how they beat Bama last year. They just kept the football. And if they do it again, TCH Social Austin's going to explode. It's going to be awesome. So that's going to be a good thing to see. Bad beat bacon will be thrown around the room. It'll be incredible. Actually, that's not true. We're just going
to throw that bad beat bacon at me. That's fine.
Throw it at us. Yes, throw it at us. Don't throw it at anybody else. We'll see y'all this weekend for that, and we'll see you next week, Wednesday, 10 a.m. for the debut of the Recruiting Insider. Shout out to Longhorn Wealth Management Group and John for all the support. Thank y'all for supporting us here at Orange Bloods Live. See ya.